and must determine national policy after consulting provincial governments and so forth, and taking into account policing needs and priorities. So that's political responsibility. Interestingly, it doesn't label it executive authority, because I think that that formulation correctly reflects the fact that the minister embodies, in a sense, in the theory of democracy, the will of the people. They carry a political mandate, and Parliament holds the minister accountable for that mandate. That connection between the the government, this Parliament, and the people is critical in a democracy and must be weighed in our reasoning about this matter. Then 207 says the National Commissioner must exercise control and manage the police service in accordance with national policy and directions of the cabinet member. Now, those rather general, that rather general language doesn't in detail explain, instantiate the relationship between these two important positions. There is no reference to operational matter, to what is an operational matter and what is not in the Constitution. That is a matter, it's not a textual matter, it's a matter of interpret. That's how the Constitution is being interpreted, how this language is being interpreted. So I'm making 2 points. One is that there's no reference to what is an operational matter and what's not in the Constitution. That is a matter of extra textual interpretation. It's an expression of an opinion about what the Constitution provides. And Section 206 and Section 207 don't resolve this matter in any kind of detail.
Well, it seems to also complicate or compound matters because 2072 then says that the management and control must take place in accordance with national policy and the directions of the cabinet member responsible for policing.
Quite right, Advocate.
And what if those directions, like the one of 31 December, have some control management features or aspects?
Yes, and so I think that you are quite rightly drawing our attention to the complexity of the matter, and and why simple definitional, categorical, binary, mechanical reasoning doesn't resolve the matter. What is a policy matter and what is a matter for management? Okay. Um, you can think about any program in government which is set up in the Department of Education or the Department of Welfare. There are programs there that are funded and which the minister has oversight over. And the minister might well decide, we're in a new administration, we have new priorities, we're going to cut the spending to higher education, we're going to prioritize basic education. Those are, and then the accounting officer and the minister have to work together to implement what is a directive from the cabinet, surely. Now, I would make a second point. I think it's always wrong as a matter of constitutional interpretation to treat each provision of the Constitution as separate and discrete. Provisions have to be interpreted in the light of their purposes and, where necessary, holistically in the light of other complementary provisions in the Constitution. So I hear arguments which entirely ignore um, Section 83, which I think is material, which says that the president is the head of state and the head of the national executive. Section 85(1) says the executive authority of the republic is vested in the president. and that the president exercises the executive authority together with the members of the cabinet. The Minister of Police is a member of a cabinet. It's a collective body. And then the provisions relating to the cabinet, section 91, the cabinet consists of the president as head of the cabinet and deputy president and ministers and so forth. Now, my point is this. How can you interpret section 206 and 207 without reference to those other provisions which envisage a system of representative government, of cabinet government, of which every minister is a part? So when a minister exercises executive authority in a department, that minister is exercising that executive authority on behalf of the president and as a member of the cabinet. So how can this matter from a legal constitutional point of view be treated as if the Constitution provides a simple mechanical answer derived from the rather general provisions of section 206 and 207? Constitutions are not written that way. Constitutions are frameworks. They are not prescriptive in the way that is being suggested by this reasoning. And frankly, I don't think we can resolve the matter fully by assuming that we can draft legislation that will resolve the matter. So I would say this. I think it's a complex relationship where it works. For a department to work well and for the government to deliver on its mandate, these are two critical positions. When they break down, then the institution atrophies and the ability of the institution to function and to deliver on its mandate breaks down. And there may be many reasons for that breakdown. Um, uh, I think that's what we've seen here. Rather than to treat this question prescriptively as if we have a formula, a definition that is going to resolve all such matters going forward in the future. And by the way, I would also say this. We should, some of these formulations appear to me to be rather conservative. They are orientated towards protecting a status quo. In a situation which requires change, where dysfunction has to be addressed through reform, how does this formula, this mechanical formula, assist us? In the next 2 years or 3 years, am I going to be called before the minister, before yourselves, and before a portfolio committee, and to be said, well, I will say, well, 90% of these decisions were made by the provincial commissioner, by the national commissioner, and they were all operational matters. So you can't hold me accountable. Hold him accountable. And so I think there's also an accountability deficit. It allows this formulation, I think, allows both the minister and the head of the department to escape responsibility and accountability, because they can always say, as a matter of definition, that matter belongs to the minister and not to me, and vice versa.
Yeah, it depends on the context and the purpose, and of course, the break on both executive authority and control and management is always going to be the principle of legality and issues of rationality. What informs a rational decision are the reasons that you give for those decisions. You can't simply make a decision because you woke up one morning, maybe on the 31st of December, and you just make a decision. You've got to give reasons that informs that decision.
Yes, thank you, Advocate. I think that that it's not clear to me also, but this is a small quibble, that I mean, when you are dealing with political responsibility that you can apply the principles that are applicable to administrative decisions fully, like paja and so forth.
Mm.
But I do think that good decisions, whether by the National Commission, by the head of department, or by a minister, and decisions whether you're in the public sector or the private sector, are best when they're made through a proper process and with proper reasoning, what you call rational decisions. And then we should be able to scrutinize the decisions. And the fact that you are you hold an elective office, doesn't exonerate you from political responsibility as opposed to legal responsibility for the way you make decisions. Because I think that it's quite right for members of the legislature uh, to 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 scrutinize decisions, especially important ones like this, to scrutinize the decisions, and to explore what the reasons were, whether the reasons were sound, and then how did you go about establishing those reasons. You can't simply you can think you have reasons, but you can be very subjective. So I think often it's best to have a rational process of inquiry, of fact finding, um, of 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 a fine of thinking carefully about what the criteria are, what process do you have to follow to put yourself in a position to make the right decision. From myself, speaking very much for myself, I feel that that that's the way one should try and come to conclusions about any matter, but particularly when you have such important responsibility.
Yeah. Now, just to go back to the Interministerial Committee, we know from former Minister Tele that actually the last Interministerial Committee meeting was in May of 2024, just shortly, I think, before the elections of 2024. And he also mentioned to us that he had seen some assignment to Minister Kubai, who's Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, that one of her assignments related to the IMC. You haven't received or seen such an assignment?
Sorry, no, I haven't, but the two of us jointly chair the JES CPS cluster, and we've had to work very closely together on this anti-gang strategy, for instance, precisely because, as I say, I think this integration is so critical. We've had to work very closely together. So, I mean, certainly on often on matters that come before me, I find that I've got to consult with her. Um, uh, there are other colleagues in the criminal justice cluster, Minister of the Security Agency, uh, Corrections, and so. But yes, I have a close relationship with the Minister of Justice, and it's necessary for our work.
Is it given your grave concerns, which I think all of us share, of political killings in not only in KZN but in Gauteng, in other areas of the country, and that seems to be linked to organized crime, that you should convene an IMC or ask the president to convene the IMC again so that it can take stock of what the political killings task team has achieved thus far. Because as we know from the evidence, the political killings task team has now only been funded up until March 2026, which is like just a few months away.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, Advocate. We are working on.
I've got no ambitions to be a politician.
You'd make a very good one, because you reason in a rational way. Um, no, I think that that's a good suggestion. It has been at the back of my mind. We we are working on an organized crime strategy. We are testing it out in the Western Cape and in 3 other provinces. This integrated strategy, and as I said, we learned a lot from the PKTT. Um, and I think that there is a gap in the current structure of the cabinet. I would say that the JCPS cluster perhaps is not the right forum for an initiative like this, which requires a very clear focus, almost a project like focus on investigation, prosecution, and so forth. So I I I I think you are correct, but of course I will have to consult.
Yeah. Because no doubt, Honorable Minister James will ask you about behind me, about um, the rife killings that are taking place almost daily in on the Western Cape, on the Cape Flats, in Reiger Park, and other places. Why isn't the same integrated approach where you have investigators, prosecutors all working together? Um, why is this not being applied? And I think you did mention, I'm not sure if it's in your statement, but in our consultation about how you've asked or requested what plan is there in place to deal with this, particularly when you were here, I think a few weeks ago in Cape Town, Cape Flats.
Well, in fact, there's been some progress since we met because when I got back to Gauteng, uh, I immediately had a conversation with Minister Kubai. She convened a meeting which took place in her department.
We had to indicate the cases.
It was so well attended. The NPA from the Western Cape was there. General Patakile and his whole team were back up. Obviously, the whole national team, the SARS and his team, to look at what SARS can add, because SARS has excellent data gathering capabilities because of its positioning in relation to the financial sector, very strong investigative and analytical capabilities. So SARS has good information. And in dealing with organized crime, it's not we need to have an Al Capone approach as well.
Well, it's I
Yeah,
think
yes.
um, as the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Batoy will come and tell us, it's all about following the money. Now, maybe it's something you could also address or think about is the wage and conditions of service disparities. Um, someone would sooner, or maybe they got the initial training in the police, which we understand can cost more than R1 million to train someone, but they end up going either to organized crime because they get better paid, or they go to SARS or the financial regulator or one of these other state or parastatal institutions that offers better pay and better conditions of service.
Yes, I concur with that. I think as we move into a process of resetting SEPs, and I think personally, I hope that that will be the outcome of this inquiry process and the Madlanga Commission, help the country understand what has happened and what the way forward is, to reset the South African Police Service. Now, my view is that the South African Police Service is going through a very difficult period. And the inquiry that you are conducting, the Madlanga Commission, will be a moment of some difficulty for the country, because we are being exposed to testimony which is very disconcerting. But it is also a moment to reset, to refocus. That's going to require careful, high-level thinking, if you like, in the country, which helps us identify what the issues are that need to be addressed. One of them, certainly, I think, is the one that you mentioned, the human resource strategies in SAPS. Um, SAPS is not an organization, in my view, on its knees. It is a national organization, very large, more than 180,000 members, more than 1,000 police stations across the country. Every day policing work is being done. And at the very top of the organization, we have highly competent, in places, we have highly competent professional individuals. The generals are our elite core of law enforcement in this country. I mean, look at the top leadership, you will see, for instance, formidable women. It was not conceivable even, I don't know, 10 years ago. I said that in the portfolio committee. That tells you about, I think, something about the progress that this country has made. Now, human resources, I think what the SAPS is, it's a large organization. It's quite good at mass operations, high visibility operations. I can tell you all that I think with G20, the country is going to put its best foot forward. And I think it's very important for us to pull together when the eyes of the world are going to be on us. But there are areas where we need to build capabilities and skills which are not at the level currently that they need to be. Detective services is one. And you are pointing out the fact that even when we do recruit and train the best, we lose them. And by the way, one of the problems is that, because we don't have an integrated approach in the criminal justice system, you have the best detectives are poached. They go to the private sector, or they go to the SIU, and so you can't build IDEC because they want to work at the SIU, because that is a well-functioning institution, and we've all seen the results. Crime intelligence needs an upgrade. Does crime intelligence have the analytical capabilities that are required to deal with organized crime? So I think there's some conversation to be had about how to assure alignment and integration in the criminal justice system through common performance standards, for instance, common targets, budgets, and so forth.
Honorable members, the SC is requesting that we take a 5 minutes break.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
now it's now 28 minutes after 11. So we will come back 20 minutes before 12. So we'll come back at 11:40. Enjoy your break.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This November, SAFM proudly presents the 3rd annual lecture.
And as the Freedom Charter says, no legitimate government could claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. And I think sometimes people forget that.
SAFM invites you to our 3rd annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi. The theme of the lecture is Confronting Inequality, Corruption and Unemployment, Rebuilding South Africa's Social Contract for Inclusive and Sustainable Growth. The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Fourways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Ready to connect, innovate, and be inspired? It's all happening at Africa's Tech Festival, where Africa's technology meets the world. From the 10th to the 13th of November in Cape Town, join global leaders, investors, and innovators driving the future of Africa's digital economy. Don't miss the continent's biggest week in tech. Get your pass now at africatechfestival.com.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a Clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations, and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
We're not yet part of the team. But I think from 2020 onwards, that's when then we had the full capacity. Aspects were not yet part of the team. But I think from 2020 onwards, that's when then we had the full capacity.
Thanks. And so that meeting followed, so it was a detailed report, and it concluded with resolutions. And that's on page 57. And again, as per the previous minutes, the request was for continuing reports on the progress of cases.
Yes, that is correct.
And for a specific report on the high-profile cases as well.
Yes.
Sorry. General, in that page 57 under resolutions, can you just explain that first bullet point, which requires a progress report on 22 case dockets not related to the task team mandate?
Yeah.
Why that was being included for discussion in the work of the task team?
Thank you, Commissioners. Initially, the use of parallel investigation was an internal exercise. We were doing it to assist our investigation. But then the time came when, because if we have a main case that is linking ballistically with another case that is not politically related, we were only reporting on the politically related main case. So the resolution was, let us also report on those parallel ones because they talk to the performance of the task team.
So it was a performance issue, really?
It was a performance issue, yes.
Was any question raised at any point by the IMC about the fact that these parallel dockets were included in the work of the PKTT?
There were mainly comments that were coming from, because our report was structured such that we touch on all the activities of the team. So when we get to the ballistic analysis, that's where we will show the linkages that the firearms that we have confiscated, they were linked with other cases that we had then requested from the stations to investigate them parallel to the main case. Now, because now our statistics were not tallying at all the segments of the report, that's when then it was a resolution that as we report, if we check our reports moving forward, even the report that we presented as part of the testimony in the commission, it has those categories: political related cases, parallel cases, and ad hoc cases. Initially, before these resolutions, we were only reporting on main or political related cases only.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. So let's move on then to March 2019, 28 March 2019. That's CJC 14. And that's the minutes of the next meeting of the IMC. Were you present at this meeting?
Yes, that's correct.
And again, it's a very lengthy briefing, am I correct, that was provided by the acting PC?
Yes, Commissioners.
And the update, which is very detailed, is an update on all of the cases under investigation and in court.
That is correct, Commissioners. Maybe then to draw the attention of the Commissioners on page 64, where we were complying with the recommendation of the previous meeting, where we started then reflecting on parallel case dockets that were not part of the previous reports.
And on page 65, you report on ad hoc cases.
Yes, as I explained, Commissioners.
And those related to the unlicensed firearms.
Yes.
And that meeting...
Sorry, can I just ask? Mm-hmm. Is it then correct, would it be correct then to characterize the position this way, that although the team was set up, and its mandate is to investigate political killings. These parallel and ad hoc investigations means that at least operationally, the mandate sort of expanded, because with the parallel cases, you're not necessarily looking at political related matters. I think somewhere earlier on, there was a report, for example, of a reckless driving case, and there are robberies here. So in practice, the mandate sort of expanded. Would that be a fair and accurate characterization, General?
That will be very correct, Commissioners, because it was an operational decision not needing the extension of the mandate. I'm trying to separate the two, because we are investigating political related cases, and then there is a case that is linked with the other case that is not political related. Maybe it's because it's the same suspects, maybe it's because it's the same firearm used. Now, for us to strengthen our main case, there is a lot of evidence that we can get from this other case, and then we will then investigate it parallel to this other case. Same applies to the firearm-related cases, because we will have operations where we are looking for specific firearms. Now, when we register a possession of unlicensed firearm for that particular firearm, that case will be investigated by the team, because it is linked sometimes with a parallel docket that is linked with the main political related case, because this firearm was used in both these cases. So initially, it was an operational decision which was part of our methodology. Hence, then, when we were reporting on the mandated group. But then, as we were explaining how we are so successful, then it was then requested that we bring also those cases in our report.
Thank you. And am I correct to say that in all of these reports, you began to then report in terms of those categories? So you separated out the categories in your reports?
That is what we did throughout up until the last 27-page report of January 2025.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to just move on to the next. The resolutions here, just for the sake of completeness, to wrap it up, are similar to the previous resolutions, which is to continue your reporting on the cases and to intensify efforts on certain cases. Correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay, so the next meeting then is 30 July 2019 at CJC 15, page 73. Were you present at this meeting?
That is correct, Commissioners.
And can you tell me whether this meeting followed the same format as the previous meetings, meaning a very detailed report by the Acting Provincial Commissioner?
Yes, indeed, it followed the same format where the National Commission on paragraph 2.2, page 73 will introduce, and then and General Connors will take the IMC through the prepared presentation, starting with the introduction, as well as the cases allocated, and giving the status report on each and every one of those cases.
Thank you. If we can then, again, a very detailed record of the presentation that is included in the minutes. But let's go to page 82. There's a section that's headed Remarks by a Member of IMC and Others.
Yes.
Okay, so the first bullet point, it says the meeting noted the incorporation of 78 cases which are not related to political killings. Can you just explain that bullet, please?
It is referring to the explanation that I've been giving, that these cases, because they were increasing, and then as they are reflected on each report, then the IMC was also starting to take note of them, then, because that will influence even the resources and the budget for the trustee.
And it notes that the meeting indicated the team should pursue those cases.
Yes, as I explained, that if the meeting indicated that the team should pursue these cases as if they indirectly have relation to their mandate. So it started as an operational decision, but then during this meeting, it was then accepted as an indirect mandate, although it's not talking to the mandate of political killings dockets.
Can you comment on the second remark by the IMC?
The meeting also stressed the importance of strong and better coordinated intelligence operations as the key to successful investigations and prosecution. That was the time when we had the team that was at least 98% capacitated, sufficient, and we were then able to deliver in line with the plan in terms of activities and the timelines, because we had better coordination from within the expertise. And there was also by that time now an understanding, as I explained yesterday, that when we call people up, they come in with their understanding of how things are done. So indeed, it took time for the team to gel and understand that the methodology here is in a process format. Hence, then there was this comment.
Okay. And the third bullet? Can you comment on the third bullet?
The involvement of private security firms or is concerning, and the meeting indicated that the team should work with private security industry regulation authority to do the inspections on compliance. The team had adopted a concept of compliance inspections, because we had since realized that the firearms that are normally used are belonging to the private security companies as well as municipalities. That is why we were struggling then to get the firearm that will link with a political killing case. Then we started the compliance inspection. The criteria will be, when we identify the hit orderer, then we will profile the hit orderer until we get to I must choose the word now, an associate who is having a private security company owning firearms. That is when then we will go for compliance inspections. And in most of the compliance inspections that we conducted, we will find that the caliber because you will first profile the security company to identify and understand the firearms that the company is owning. Then when you go for compliance inspection, your focus is on a caliber that is fitting the one firearm that you are looking for. So when you get there, in most cases, the firearm that you are looking for is reported stolen 2 weeks ago. So that was an indication then for us to say we need to widen the scope, and we have another example in the municipalities. One of the municipality, we were looking for the firearm that was used in killing the councillor. On records, that firearm then was found to have been booked to a particular security security guard who's employed by the municipality. We did find that firearm from that security guard, but we found it was sliced like a bread, so as then it cannot be used for ballistic purposes. But we did find the firearm. So this was during the time when we were realizing that the struggle for us to find the firearms that are used is because there are most of them within the private security companies and municipalities.
Nevertheless, the meeting noted the progress made on recovering firearms. And if you could just read the fourth bullet.
More especially the increase of the firearms, the number to 181, it was mainly because of that compliance inspection, because we will find a lot of unlicensed firearms within private security companies and municipalities.
So it was 181 firearms, ammunition, and magazines recovered.
Yes.
And that was since, it says, the re-establishment of the task team, not the establishment. So
since July 2018.
So that's July 2018. Okay, and then again, request for more progress reports. And what we see after this is that there are no minutes for the years 2020 and 2021. Can you explain that?
Yes, Commissioners. As we are all aware, those years were years when we had a problem of COVID. So the meetings and movement was limited. So that is the only reason that we can provide.
So the next meeting then is 2022, and that's CJC 16.
Yeah, that's correct, Commissioners.
It's dated 2 February 2022. Were you present at this meeting?
Yes, I was present, Commissioner.
And again, we see the similar format, a very detailed briefing. And this briefing was by the Acting Provincial Commissioner again, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
If we can just go then to the resolutions, which is on page 96. There are 5 resolutions, 5 bullet points. Can you explain the first bullet point?
Thank you, Commissioners. The resolutions, in most cases, the resolutions will be linked with the challenges that will be brought to the attention of the IMC by the team. So the first one that talks to the must be specialized or dedicated court for political related cases. That was during the time when we were experiencing delays at court, we had so many trial-ready cases, but now because they were competing on the court roll with other local cases, looking at the task team being time-bound and being a project, then there was that request or recommendation that the dedicated court be provided, of which then the ministry had identified that Saudi court case that after threat and risk assessment and other processes, mainly because of the conditions of the cells in that court, then the interdepartmental, especially the provincial steering committee, decided against the use of the court. Then the next one talks to the dedicated prosecution team at lower courts to deal with firearm-related cases. The main problem there was, as the team will register a case of possession of unlicensed firearm, and the dedicated team of prosecutors are dealing with politically related, more especially if the firearm is not linked with the case. Now, those cases were also suffering a lot, and then the team thought that maybe they must also put up that request for their cases that are at lower courts to have the dedicated prosecution team.
And did that happen?
Unfortunately, it did not happen, commissioners.
Okay, if you can just then finish with reference to the third bullet point on these minutes.
The Department of Correctional Services should improve on security, especially unlawful access to cell phones by inmates, and report in the next meeting. This has been an ongoing problem up to date, but it was something that was also brought up by the task team for the IMC to assist on. There were lots of proposals that were put on, but were not implemented. That is why we still have the same problem. And it's one of the reasons why the request that was approved and the recommendation to use Kokstad prison, because communication within that prison is impossible.
So that concludes those minutes. The next set of minutes is CJC 17, and that meeting took place on 5 September 2023. Were you present at this meeting, General Khumalo?
Yes, commissioners.
Now, this meeting, again, followed the similar format to the previous meetings, except that the report of the work of the PKTT was presented by you and not the Provincial Commissioner. Is that correct? Page 100.
Yes, that is correct.
And again, as with the previous reports, it's a very detailed briefing, and it goes on for quite a number of pages. I don't know if there's anything specific you want to highlight in relation to this meeting. If not, we'll just go to the end of the minutes.
There is nothing more other than to flag that on this report we had included a threat and risk assessment because it was built up to the upcoming local government elections.
So can we then go to page 123? And you'll see this is a section dealing with remarks by other members present in the meeting.
Yes.
There are a number of comments here. Are there any, there's some that are notable. Some of the issues that are addressed here are issues that seem to recur. The importance of dedicated courts, for example. But we also see that the Deputy Minister indicated that he agrees with the recommendations of the task team and that the team should be enhanced. What did that mean, that the team should be enhanced?
It was referring to the increasing workload and also in preparation for the upcoming local government elections. Hence, then, after the TRA was presented, that formed part of the remarks and resolutions by the IMC.
Okay, so it was linked to the threat and risk assessment and then the upcoming elections,
yes.
The need for enhancement. So then there's a bullet that says some members have been taken back to their original station. Why is that?
It was one of the challenges that we were starting to experience where some environments will then want their members then to return for various reasons, which was then identified as one, it was affecting our capacity looking at the work that we had on hand, but also it was affecting our turnaround time because now as you receive a new person who's not familiar with the methodology, it will take some time for that person to gel in. But that was basically what we're experiencing. Maybe to add, there is a point above that talks to the minister indicating that the task team is also now involved in the investigation of Fort Hare University cases. That was after the extension of the mandate. Now that also affected our capacity because we had to move then other members of the team to relocate to the Eastern Cape. That was one of the reasons why then the capacity was a problem.
And then on the next page, page 124, we have the resolution. And then on the next page, page 124, we have the resolutions. And can you read out the last two bullet points?
The last two bullet points of the recommendations, first one being the success of the task team should be communicated to the nation via press briefing. The second one, the task team cannot be dissolved. It must continue.
And that is the end of the minutes of the meeting for September 2023. Was there any other IMC meeting after that? Maybe we don't have minutes.
There were no other IMCs because this one was the last IMC towards elections. Hence, then it had also a recommendation or a threat and risk assessment and a recommendation of enhancing it and also the decision not to dissolve it, I should think that maybe in line with the change of administration, this is the last decision taken by this IMC that it should not be dissolved, so as the next IMC, when it comes in, it continues this good work that this current IMC have seen.
So I have a question about that, because if the meeting takes this resolution that it must not be dissolved, is it because there were discussions before that contemplating that the PKTT should be disbanded?
Not as far as I understand it. It can only be that in our reports, we will also look at the timeline. If it's towards the end of the financial year, then the Provincial Steering Committee, the National Steering Committee, and the IMC will have that as a point of discussion and a resolution to take at all levels, so as then when the new financial year starts, the team knows that they have to prepare for the extension.
Okay. So, in addition to this regular meetings or this oversight by the IMC, there were also monitoring by the Provincial Steering Committee and the National Steering Committee.
Yes.
And by this point in time, then September 2023, were you informed of concerns? I just want to confirm that this is what you're saying. Maybe put it differently. You were not informed of concerns of the work of the PKTT and the need to close it?
No, I was not informed of any concerns or complaints. I was only aware of the commendations of the good work by the team, because there is the last unminuted meeting where the team had to brief the president himself on the progress. That was then the last meeting before elections.
So, as far as you were aware, the task team was conducting itself in a manner that, well, there were no concerns that were raised with you as far as its performance goes. And as far as the monitoring goes, was that monitoring of the work and the achievement of your objectives, as well as your finances? Was there monitoring over your budget?
Yes, that was done simultaneously at all levels, from the Provincial Steering Committee up to IMC. But then the financials were monitored at national level by the CFO.
By the CFO at national level?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll return then to the 31st December letter.
Before you do that, General, you have a meeting, the last meeting is in 2023, September. And the meeting before that is in February 2022. And your explanation for the gap from 2019 to 2022 is the COVID intervention. Now, the next meeting is then in 2022, and then more than a year later, September 2023, it seems that's when you have your next meeting. Yeah. If that is correct, why is that so? Why was there such a long gap?
Thank you, Commissioner. As although it's not my meeting, because it's the IMC and we were not in control of their calendar. So at tactical level, as per the plan, the meetings were taking place every day, accounting meetings. And then same applies to Major level, Provincial Steering Committee. There was then I won't say a problem, but the regular meetings at National Steering Committee as well as IMC between 22, after COVID, between 22 and 23, they were not as regular as they were. One then can maybe, because their main role was to monitor and evaluate and assess that the team is performing. One will say maybe they did not see the need to meet as regular as before because they had since assessed the situation and confirmed that indeed the performance is as they are expecting.
Thank you for that explanation. And then secondly, the team is constituted for the first time in 2018, right?
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that the chronology, as I understand it, is correct. And then in 2018, where you started, you've given a list of the different ministers who were involved in their department. So, for example, and maybe let's just start there. I won't take you through each one of them. I'll just hop along as we go on. So you had Minister Cele there as the Minister of Police. You had Minister Mapisa Ngakula, Minister Masuta, and Minister Letsatsi Duba. And then you had the Premier Mkhunu and MEC Kaunda. That is in 2018 when you have your first meeting. And then you have your second meeting, it's CJC 11 at page 19. You have the same people. If you look at that page 19, you have Minister Cele, Minister Letsatsi Duba, and then you have Premier Mkhunu, and then in apologies, you have Minister Letsatsi Duba somehow. But it's all the same names. You have Mkhunu and you have Kaunda. It's all the same names. And that's in 2018 still. And then in 2019, if you would just go to, just hold on for me. If you would just go to CJC 14, which starts at page 59, that you continue there, the same ministers. But then at some point, this is 2019, and then at some point there's a change of ministers, and that's the point that I just want to make sure I get right. This is now in 2019, July, at page 73, CJC 15. You still have Minister Cele, and then you have under apologies, Minister Mapisa Ngakula, still defense, and then now you have a different minister, Minister Lamola for justice, and then you have for the first time Deputy Minister Makwetla for defense and military veterans, and then Deputy Minister Kodwa. Makwetla is deputy as well. And then you have Deputy Minister Kodwa as Deputy Minister of State Security. And then MEC Kaunda. You see where I'm reading. It's at page 74.
Yes.
That's in 2019. I just, and perhaps Ms. Hassam can assist. I'm just trying to locate when we have elections where there's change of leadership. 20? Yes, I'm told that in 2019, that's when we had the next election. Now,
National elections, yeah.
Yes, now we have a new minister, Lamola for justice. We have a new administration, basically. Yeah. And the ministerial committee continues to exist. Was there ever a break about it, that a new ministerial committee still has to be constituted after that election in 2019?
Thanks, Commissioner. There's never been a break. The IMC has been continuing with its meetings since the establishment. The elections came, and then the political leadership will change, but the ministries will continue. That's why we will see the new names of the ministers coming on board after elections.
Yes. And you see that in 2022 as well at page 84. If you, this is your February meeting, and then if you turn to 85, you now have Premier Zikalala as a premier, and then you have Deputy Minister Matale, and under apologies, you now have Minister of Defense Modise and Lamula. So the departments continue and ministries continue to be represented, even though there was a change of administration and ministers.
That is correct, Commissioner. Even at provincial level, the first premier who started with the initial was Premier Mkunu. Then as we move on, Premier Zikalala, because of elections again. So the political figures will change, but the ministries will remain within the IMC.
Thank you. Thank you, General. Thanks, Ms. Hassan.
Thank you, Commissioners. General Kamala, the National Steering Committee, did the members of the National Steering Committee change over time?
Yes, Commissioners, as it was the case with IMC, also within the steering committees, there will be those changes. If we recall, at the beginning of the task team reconfigured one 2018, the Deputy National Commissioner was General Zumane, who retired after some few years, and then Lieutenant General Msigidi was appointed the Deputy National Commissioner Crime Detection, and then she continued serving in the steering committee, National Steering Committee. So it was the case at all levels.
Thank you. We were dealing with Part C, so of your statement, and Part C of your statement deals with the disestablishment of the task team, and we began with the letter of 31 December. Can we now move to paragraph 135? You've explained to some extent that you had not been informed about the concerns about the PKTT before the 31st of December, and you were also not consulted about any decision to disband before the 31st of December. You received the letter. No. Did you receive the letter? When did you become aware of it? We've dealt with